Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic
in 3D.
Bong.
It's just so wonderful to see all your faces, is really all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerdtastic in 3D, episode number 42. Wow. We are an entertainment industry podcast of entertainment industry professionals talking about anything and everything that we find
Entertaining and professional.
nerdy, not entertaining. We've been here for a little while, guys. And last week we were down to just 2 people, and very happy that this week we're back up to a full 7.
Wait, you recorded last week?
We did?
You didn't.
Not we.
Apparently.
Not we.
Apparently I thought the...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This was from 2 weeks ago, I guess. We posted it last week.
Okay, I was about to say.
My name is
I
Jason
did
Carter.
not get invited.
Jason Pecco.
I'm Sean Fennelle.
I'm Josh the Brat.
Jack Eckler.
Adam McFarlane.
I'm Sean Carney, but I like to just say 42.
There it is.
So we're recording from a new room this evening. Suddenly we feel very corporate, set up at a conference table.
I find it sexy.
So who's being fired?
Pecco.
Oh,
Pecco's out.
Not
Yeah,
the
my vote's
first
on
time
Adam.
this has happened.
All right, here.
You seem strangely comfortable down there, Jay, looking like you were going to get fired.
Yeah, I did an interview the other day, and the lady assumed that I was an alcoholic because I had tattoos. She was like, "Oh, I'd buy you beer to bribe you to get me to do something." So I'm used to the.
Whoa.
Did you first look at her strange and then go, probably?
I was like, "Yeah,
okay
I would
with
do
that.
it. I would do it."
Who's this? Who would use that on an interview? That's terrible. I would never say that to somebody.
That is undisclosed information.
But it worked.
Did it work?
It worked.
No.
Did
you
you
hire
hire
her?
her?
No.
Did she
No?
have beer, or did she just say
If she would have brought beer to the interview, yes, she would have been hired.
Obviously.
Have you ever had to interview someone that you weren't sure what their gender was?
Like Pat?
Sean Kearney. That was the.
And vice versa. I had the same problem with you. So
Did he have the facial hair then, or no?
This is a new development.
but it's still there are still some unanswered questions.
It was to seal the deal.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. There's a bunch of good stuff that was this week. One of which was Halo 4's Forward Unto Dawn first episode, little miniseries. Jason Carter, talk about it.
So, I mean, I'm a super Halo fan, so I was incredibly excited about it. I think the first thing that jumped out right away to me was the production value. It was pretty impressive. I mean, they put a lot of effort into it.
It was all right.
You didn't think so?
No, it was great.
I was like, wait, really?
You just want to be that guy.
Wow.
No, you're not pretty.
I will say, it's really good. Really, it seems like it's setting up. So there's not a lot of story per se that comes out of it, but there's a lot of interesting setup. Looks like it's going to be pretty good. My first thought was actually to the Halo movie when that was floating around 3 years ago or so. Neil Blomkamp.
Blumenkamp.
Doing good. Not going to make that movie.
Was all slated to kind of direct it. Peter Jackson was going to produce with Microsoft. And the rumor that I had heard was that it got canned because Microsoft wanted too much creative control. And it does make me wonder if Microsoft has had these plans about wanting to dole out their story very specifically, and that this is kind of how they're doing it. But they've said that this is free. It's going to be out there, the Machinima Prime and Halo Waypoint, and you can check it out. And the first one's up. I love it.
It's super long.
It is
like 20 minutes.
Each
Yeah.
one's 20 minutes long. I
They
think.
set a good tone, though.
Yeah, definitely. And if you do have Halo Waypoint. They have a whole bunch of behind-the-scene videos that kind of give you an indication of potentially where it's headed. So we know that the Master Chief makes an appearance, which is awesome.
And the Warthog really works in Drive.
And
I
they
do
have
remember
the
that
real
behind the
working
scenes where
Warthog.
they had that come out from Weta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And there's
crazy.
like the one guy who can operate it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But do you, Jason, play the story campaign of Halo, because I do not, and I play the story of everything. I love the story to Modern Warfare. I love the story to games that are mainly multiplayer. After Halo, I played half of Halo 2, and since then, Halo Reach, I literally did not even touch the campaign missions. I loaded it up, went straight to multiplayer. I don't care.
So, Halo 1, amazing story. Halo 2 and 3, really convoluted story that were too hard to follow. And I've gone back and played them both twice again, the campaign. Too hard to follow, for sure. ODST, the campaign was... I just didn't jive with that one.
I didn't even put in the disc in ODST. I literally just was like, oh, look, I'll just play this. And I had every intention. I had Halo 3 and bought it to play the ODST campaign and was just like, now I'm just going to play the Halo 3.
I will tell you this. Reach is an amazing story.
Really?
It's really good.
I might go back.
The campaign is really fun. And they've dialed in Reach, they dialed in the AI mechanics in a way that is truly infuriating in a really fun way.
Okay.
Like, it's really adaptive to what you're going to do. You know those moments where you're playing AI and you feel like the moment you go left, the character goes right? Like, that input is dialed right in? Like, it is... They dialed it in a way that's frustrating in a fun way. So, yeah, definitely Reach and Halo 1 are awesome.
Are you going to buy the special collector's edition thing of Halo 4?
I'm not. The only thing that seemed enticing to me in there was the DVD that with all the Forward Unto Dawn.
That's the only reason why I haven't watched it yet.
You're gonna wait.
I'm gonna wait and because it's like it's a 90-minute thing, so it's an hour and a half movie thing. So I'm just gonna.
Did you buy the special edition?
Yeah, I pre-ordered it.
See, my problem was everything else that was in there was kind of like,
It was like helicopter. It was like maps and shit. There is no hovering.
Just saying.
What is that thing? A glider? What is it?
Quadcopter.
There it is. That's the name. But yeah.
Anyways, it was fun.
I just do it because I always usually buy the Halo ones, the big ones. I have the helmet.
I'm bummed I didn't get the helmet. I'm bummed I didn't get the helmet.
You know, you could have gone to Best Buy. My favorite thing was that you could go to Best Buy and they had them for like $60 because they were just trying to oh my God, we only have so much room in our store and we have to get rid of all these stupid Halo helmets.
So awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm impressed, Josh. You haven't actually watched it.
Yeah, because I want to watch it like all entirety. You
That's
know, it's
crazy.
just like kind of saving yourself for a season. You know, and watching the entire season. Well,
but because it's in Microsoft, though, it's probably not going to be in Blu-ray. So you probably are going to get a better quality on your computer than you will
that's a good,
on the DVD.
That's a good.
Or you watch
I may
them
need
now
to change my strategy.
Then again?
What's up?
You could watch them now and then again.
Wait a second.
Or
Can you watch things twice, Jack?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Do you do that?
I'm throwing it out there.
No.
No, for him and Jason, being diehard fans who listen to the audiobooks and everything else, I think it's a no-brainer that you're going to probably watch it multiple times.
That thing I'd be less inclined to probably watch a couple of times.
I think you could just rip the 1080p HQ from YouTube and then stack them all. Just wait till they all come out.
That's
and
a great
throw
idea.
them in VLC
It's an
and just
awesome
watch
idea.
the whole thing. Because then you'll get full res.
Yep.
idea,
Keepvid.com.
Do it.
Did you guys? So you guys read the books or listened to the audiobooks?
Yeah.
There a quick trivia about those. One of the guys who wrote one of the books.
Which book?
I don't know the name of the book, but I think it was probably the first one. One of the guys who
He's just shaking his head.
listen, just take the trivia for
I
what
have
it's
a
worth.
trivia question. This guy who wrote this book.
But one of the guys,
One of them. I don't know which one.
who wrote the book is now works for Disney Interactive, and he works for Wide Load Games.
Was
Doug
that a
Zartman.
question?
I said it was a trivia.
You said it was a trivia question.
fact.
What's the guy's
Piece of trivia. Doug
Was it
Zartman,
a trivial fact? Like
who now works at
nobody
Wide
really
Load
cares.
Games.
Doug Zartman?
Yeah,
Hey, Doug. Good job.
yeah. So just a piece of trivia there that he now.
I do feel smarter
All right.
now that No, that's good. Thank you for the Doug
They had
Zartman.
they had the same author for like the first four.
Terrible trivia.
It was really bad.
Terrible trivia.
Listen, guys.
I will not be watching the Halo videos because I can't play Halo games.
Jay,
So
Jay, will
I'm
you
with you.
just buckle down and buy an
It's
Xbox?
$200.
I know, but here's the thing.
They're practically giving it to
Yeah.
you.
I'm never gonna play it.
What are you talking
even if I
about?
buy it, I'll never play it.
You'll play Halo.
I have a Wii at home. I don't play it. I
Well,
have a PlayStation.
exactly.
There's a
Exactly.
reason you don't play the Wii.
and
Like,
the
there's a
PlayStation
reason.
3.
Although, Adam, you've been in a recent Wii.
That stopped.
What were you playing on the Wii?
Whatever the new Mario
bowling?
Party.
Mario Party 9? My kid's all over that shit.
Girlfriend loves it.
My Wii is strictly a source to play Nintendo games. I use it for the Virtual Console alone.
So you mean Nintendo, like NES games?
Jason, is this Halo, is there any storyline that collaborates with anything in what you've read in the games or anything like what they're doing for?
Oh, yeah. So one thing that is incredibly unique that Microsoft is doing that I don't believe any other place is doing for a franchise game is they have a franchise director. And so it's been that way. Frank O'Connor, he's been at Bungie since, I believe, Halo 2. So he took Halo 1, took the storyline, expanded upon it. He has overseen all of the novels, all of the graphic novels, all of the fan fiction. He actually gets a say in what gets posted on fan sites and stuff like that. Like, not on forums, but legitimately posted. And he has, so he's been kind of the person that's kept the creative control over the entire universe. And so he has made sure that there is a continual story. In fact, there's another news article that came out about how for Halo 4, Microsoft has decided, for obvious reasons, they're not going to show you the face of Master Chief. He's going to keep his helmet on. Because one of the things that makes him so iconic is you don't know what he looks like. But then Frank O'Connor goes in there and actually pulls a quote right from one of the books. He's like, you have a pretty good description of what he looks like. He's a pasty, pale man with bright blue eyes and shaved red hair.
He's a ginger?
He's a ginger.
A blue-eyed ginger.
You know what, Jay? You had the right idea. Sell your PlayStation. Or, I'm sorry, sell your Xbox, everybody. You don't want to play as a ginger.
It's a disease.
Upsetting.
So on the same note, Josh, you posted something about Microsoft pulling out some big dogs to add to this new release.
Oh, yeah. David Fincher's going... Like, most of the time, like, they'll get directors to do, the cinematics of a game, or they'll, some sort of... commercial or something like that, or a trailer, and so David Fincher is like a big fan of it, and he is doing this media piece
Teaser.
This teaser trailer for the game. And it's going to be on Jimmy Fallon, I think, on the 18th, if I remember.
Is it live action?
Correctly. That I didn't know. Is it? Yeah.
Yep.
I think so.
Better be.
Most of the time, I have to say though, the Halo franchise has done huge live action trailers more than like any other sort of game before. Everything usually is like in-game engines or like full CG stuff too. But like Halo is the only franchise that I know that is kind of stuck to that.
Ignoring, of course, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which had a live action Mario and Luigi. And guest appearances by Magic Johnson. Little-known trivia question, guys.
Just saying.
It's not a question.
It's a question that I answer for you.
It's not even trivia.
You pose the question. It's quite trivial. So I think.
Well, here's kind of like the thing I wanted.
Fact corner.
Josh, sorry, before you the stuff you're talking about, the Halo live action advertising that they've done. The advertising campaign called Believe, which is the one associated with Halo 3, I believe. That was basically like a miniature set of a battlefield, and you zoom in on. So there's
that was for Reach, yeah.
It was for Reach.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was
Reach, and then the ODST one is when they really started it.
Okay.
And then Reach is when they did it because that whole thing was.
It couldn't have been Reach because it had Master Chief in it. Anyways, it was that advertising campaign was voted as one of like the most successful advertising campaigns in history. It's like top 10 of all time or something like that, which is pretty interesting. Like lots of money spent, but lots of money that they believe they got.
Good on your return. Well, to me, I wanted to really bring the topic of, especially because we have game developers, and here too, when you have a big name director.
You use that term loosely, right?
When you have a big name director, like Peter Jackson has, stepped kind of into the helm a little bit of it. Didn't Steven Spielberg do something with the Wii for?
He was on contract from
Blocks?
EA and did Boom Blocks, and then was working on a huge alien sci-fi.
For Boom Blocks?
Well, that's the thing is I think
his
those
name on
guys.
it.
Well, those guys would what he would do is he'd come in like every once a week and sit with the team and like brainstorm ideas and like kind of like shoot the shit, and then would leave, and then it was a name that you can put to market it. But I think he was a little bit more hands-on than your average person.
Because that's the question is like, do you guys think that being a good director and being able obviously to tell a story and stuff like that and piece things together, do they make for a good game developer type of director? Like, by coming in and sitting there saying, I'm Peter Jackson, I know this, this is how I want the game to go, and be basically, help design this stuff and direct it.
Well, I actually think a potentially good answer to that is looking at the most recent Resident Evil 6, and they didn't have any big names on it, but I don't know if all Japanese games have just a director, but one of the biggest names on that game was the director, and that game and gameplay fell way short of the cinematic feel. So I don't think a director is a replacement for a game director, because you look at games probably that have just the director sort of big name on it, and they're super cinematic and beautiful, but when it comes to the moment-to-moment action, it's just not quite there.
Do you think it matters, like, on a game that's an adaptation of an existing, like, material? Like, so, like, Peter Jackson coming in and saying, I'm going to, be involved in the Lord of the Rings game? Not necessarily as, like, the game director, but as a creative, like, head of, whatever.
I think it's important to have people, like, I think that's something, I mean, we're afforded that at Disney, like, when we do a game, like, we did the Perry game, right? And so it's Phineas and Ferb, and we were fortunate enough to be able to hang out with the guys who created Phineas and Ferb and run things by them and ask them questions here and there about, like, hey, is this authentic? We also have a couple people on our team who are huge fans of the show and are, like, encyclopedias about it, which was a huge boon to the game, too. But I think if somebody whose job it is to make movies goes to make a game and just randomly steps into it, they're probably, and especially on such a high-profile game, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, Jay-Z is the executive producer of the new NBA 2K game. And aside from picking a soundtrack, which I hear he did a great job doing, like, why would anyone listen to him in a meeting? Like, if he comes in and goes, yeah, it would be cool if you did, like, this crossover dribble animation like this, I'd be like, well, okay. Like, you're
baby,
some
I've
guy.
played this game for a long time, so I got some.
Exactly. He's just another super
I played
fan
NBA
of the
Jam
game.
back in the day. Let's do that.
People.
I'm going to bring my girl in here to show you
Like,
some shit.
yeah,
too, right?
would Steven Spielberg let, like, the lead designer on Boom Blocks direct his movie? Like, I'm sure he'd have the same weird thing, whereas there's some good, like, give and take. And on the non-Boom Blocks game that they were working on, he did a lot of story work, which probably was great.
Right.
And,
And I mean, from a mechanics point of view, like the guys from Phineas and Ferb were like, basically, we trust you as far as mechanics go. They informed us a lot about the story stuff, but they're not game designers.
And we were mutual fans too. Like, that was also a good thing, is they were fans of Where's My Water. We were fans of Phineas and Ferb, so it was this perfect situation where we sat down and went, we want to know everything we can know about why your show is so good and so funny. And they said, we want to help you make this game that we already know you guys are talented at making the game. And that's why I think Peter Jackson on a Lord of the Rings game is perfect.
Yeah.
Because you want that guy who has the Bible of that series in his head.
Yeah.
But in the same respect, it's like, I don't know. I think that Peter Jackson probably did a better job than Tolkien would have done directing the movie of Lord of the Rings. Because, not to put everybody in a box, but Peter Jackson had spent years learning how to craft great movies. Tolkien can write really great stories and spent years doing that. And if they did Freaky Friday split, it probably wouldn't be the same.
You hit the nail on the head, I think. I think the idea is that people have strengths in different creative areas. And just because you're a big name in one area doesn't mean you have any real say or influence or knowledge at all in another area.
And sometimes you might, but
Steven Spielberg may have an incredible idea for pacing of a movie or storytelling. That doesn't mean he's going to be a good producer of Beyonce's next album.
We did skip over the fact that Jay-Z, I mean, I don't want to do the race card, but he is black, so he probably does know basketball.
You didn't just play the race card. Like, you literally threw the race card on the ground and then stepped on it.
No, I'm putting it up on a pedestal. The race card is up there. He probably knows basketball.
So you guys are for. So then are you guys for having a big name director do the cinematics? Because like on Resident Evil 5, when I worked on it, they brought it when we were animating. They brought the director of Pulse.
What?
Those cinematics are amazing though in Resident Evil 5. Like, I have to say, it is the best thing about that game.
Well, it was funny.
And Pulse isn't that bad of a movie.
It's so bad.
It has its moments, guys.
Do you have any Pulse
Stick with it.
trivia?
Here's a trivia question about Pulse. The director of Pulse also directed
What movie?
Cinematic.
What
It's so
movie?
easy to make it a question. It's so easy to make it a question.
No,
Here's a trivia question for you. How do you turn a statement into a question easily?
that's not really trivia,
Fact.
though. That's just something
Fact.
I need to know. Apparently.
Yes. Side note on that, ESPN would do cold hard facts, but they would just do it with a question. They're like, cold hard facts. Is Michael Vick a quarterback? You're just like, what? And they would have these things, and they did it like 3 times in a row. And so, like, for the next day when I was sitting there with a friend of mine, I would just go, fact, am I hungry? And it would just be like cold hard fact,
False.
am I thirsty?
Answer is bear.
Exactly.
I think they were trying to make a point about how truth is relative. And every fact
You
is
were diving
bullshit.
deep right there. Mind blown.
So sticking on the games front, Kearney,
Hey.
Cliffy B leaving Epic.
Kaboom!
Or exiting the building. Maybe not leaving.
Cliffy B is going to be making mobile games in 2 years. Mark my words.
You think it's going to take 2 years?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to take 2 years, but that's
Explain
what
who
you do.
Explain who he is.
So
to people who
Cliffy
wouldn't know.
B, if you guys have ever played Gears of War, Unreal Tournament, Jazz the Jackrabbit, there's a company called Epic. Jay's played none of these.
That's the worst one to bring
I
up out of
played
the
all
two.
of them except Jazz the Jackrabbit.
You've never played Jazz the Jackrabbit?
No.
That was supposed to be like Epic's mascot. That was
Oh.
like a big deal in like the early
check it out.
90s. It's like a platformer game. But anyways, Cliffy B was one of the co-founders of Epic Games, and if you haven't played any of those games, you know of Epic because pretty much any first-person, third-person game you're playing right now was done in an engine that they built called Unreal. And Cliffy B is a game director, game designer guy, and his big thing is he kind of went into, they were selling this engine, and he made these really kick-ass games, and actually kind of got this company that probably should be making the majority of their money off of their engine, to be making a ton of money off of making really good, high-quality games. And he's relatively young to be
in the position.
in position that he's in, and he
Was-
just
or wasn't,
retired.
I guess.
Yeah, or wasn't, and now he just said that he retired and doesn't know what he's going to do. But if you kind of look at where everybody goes when they say that, it seems like they go to mobile and start a company with
Jeffy.
one other guy, and especially a dude like Cliffy B, who when he first started making games was probably him and a buddy making small games that they were selling on floppy disks over the mail.
Didn't they do Infinity
You know.
Blade?
That was Chair.
Chair was the developer that Epic bought.
Gotcha.
And so Epic does own them, and they put the engine, Chair is using the Unreal Engine on the iPhone. So it already works. There's a ton of games, actually, in Unreal on the iPhone.
The interesting thing, though, too, is another big name from Epic left, and I don't remember what his name was, but they left at a fairly similar time. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe that means there's
Startup.
Something going.
something going on. In the
Yeah, I mean,
future.
I think a guy like that, especially, he's done, Gears of War, the trilogy ended, they're on to new things. He kind of he really sponsored, I guess, this company, People Can Fly, which did a game called Bulletstorm that's pretty cool and over-the-top, bloody first-person game. And now that developer is doing the new Gears of War. And I don't know what his role was in that, but he was, pushing it really hard and pushing that studio. And so I feel like that was his big, he got his buddy's studio pretty much bought by Epic, and he's kind of done all he can do making big-ass cool console games. And now he is probably a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, he
and
probably
it's-
doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to do anything. And that was a
Games,
conversation Jay and I had, I was like, at that point, I wouldn't start a new company. I would just go and live a crazy cool life.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's already lived a pretty cool
Yeah.
life working on. Somebody told me a story that Epic's parking lot is Ferraris and Lamborghinis
Yeah.
and all sorts of crazy stuff.
And he can take. I saw there was a video during Gears of War 1. There's a video of him taking his boss's Lamborghini out. He's like, I'm gonna take his car out. This is how I live my life. He's trying to seem cool, but he just steals his boss's keys and gets in his boss's Lamborghini and drives away.
rough stuff.
That's how I roll.
But that's when you get to that stature. There we go. Statute. That's when you consult.
Yeah.
So that's when you go onto a
You
game.
come
It's
and you
just like
collect
this
your
was
paycheck
exactly.
for a week of sitting in an office.
And it's just from
10 to 3.
Then that's when the game can sit there and plop that name as with Cliffy B as executive producer or something like that.
But
or
the thing is, I'd rather have an interested Jay-Z on my game than a disinterested Cliffy B. When both of them are serving the same purpose. Cliffy B is by all accounts probably a better game designer, definitely a better game designer, But if he's just there to collect that paycheck, and Jay-Z's there because he doesn't need the paycheck, and he just literally is, I'm a huge fan of your game, and I want to help make it better, I kind of would take Jay-Z then. That being
sense,
said,
yeah.
I don't think he did anything to NBA 2K13. Nothing. He picked probably a good soundtrack, which is what he's great at, I'm sure.
Jack, I got a question for you. So Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, posted an open letter pretty much to everybody saying,
Is that what we're calling
I'm an
it?
idiot.
Are we calling it an open letter or an apology?
You know, yeah. No, I think it's an apology. Yeah, basically, that's what I was going to say. He's apologizing for how atrocious iOS 6 Maps is.
Oh,
He didn't hear
God.
the podcast from 3 weeks ago
He didn't?
when I said
Yeah.
it was great.
It was great, even though it steered me right to the wrong entrance of LAX. So my question to you is, one, what do you think of the apology? And two, what do you think of the fact that it's being hyped? That people are, like, blogging about how great it was?
The apology?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all drinking the Kool-Aid.
I think the only thing, I mean, it's great.
It's hopeless.
It's great if we're saying great that he had to apologize. And the grander schemes, no, it's not great. Anybody has to apologize for software. Let's start there. Let alone a company who touts itself on being holier than God. So there's that. It's great though that he mentioned you could get a link to Google. I was actually, my jaw dropped at that portion of it. I was impressed. He offered other ideas to get maps other than his. Which that's balls. I'm sure the board gave him some shit about that. Like, you could have just apologized. You don't need to let other people figure out where to get it. Other than, I could see he touted it, go to the App Store, right? So it's still a ploy to be like, hey, go back and spend money on our crappy system we've designed.
Is that what caused their stock to drop like $15? Because
15. It's dropped over $60 in the last 2 weeks.
yeah, that number.
Holy
After it dropped 15, I stopped paying attention.
As far as what I think of it, the perfect example, and I was going to throw this after I read it. I was going to go. My example is our own Josh Sabrat.
Yeah,
Which
I
we will
was-
post an image onto Facebook.
I
Josh,
just looked.
explain
Look at
your
this.
was good.
running
So
route from
So,
Apple Maps.
Wonderful Apple Maps. As I have my arm, as I'm going on a jog here, I put the map my run. I was just going around the block, and
like this though.
yeah, apparently these new maps just seem to have made me go run on the 405. Not even run on streets, but in a squiggly drunk fashion through houses.
Through backyards.
How'd you feel? How'd you feel? Good.
And you know what was funny? I was running and it hit 3 minutes, and it's like time 1 mile. Pace 3. I was like, I just ran a mile in 3 minutes. I was just, and so every single.
Looks like you went and saw a movie.
Yeah,
too.
every single at 3 minutes it would like all time. You have run 2 point. I was like, no, I have not.
I was like, no one's over there.
We're calling it Josh's Ambien run.
Is there like a tracking portion of maps that'll track where you're going?
Yeah.
Or is
It's
that-
there's a Nike app,
Nike app,
and then there's
So
also
you're using a separate app that's using
Maps.
its.
Yeah, it's usually
It's
it's
maps.
this thing called like Map My Run, and you just hit record, and
Right.
it just GPSs you, and then shows you where you are, and when you've hit 1 mile, it like tells you and your pace and how fast you're going and stuff, and so
Yeah,
I
okay.
just
I got you.
I just normally do that,
That's
and
amazing.
that shit was just plugging in like time. You've reached 1 mile at 3 minutes, and I just like fuck
Cruising.
it. This is just going to be totally screwed anyway. So I just ran a normal route that I know the mileage, and by the time I got back to the house, and I hit stop, and then I looked at my route, and it just had this squiggle line of me walking just all over Sherman
Well,
Oaks.
that is like, it sucks for Maps, but that sucks for Nike, and it sucks for all the other apps that are using Maps.
100%, because I don't want it, or I mean, not that I won't use it, but I mean it's not reliable now.
Right.
But I mean, when we're all just beating up on Apple, I don't understand why you're
and I'm not done.
Well, no, I just don't understand, Josh, why you're so upset that it made you feel like you were faster than you are. I mean, you're looking a gift horse in the mouth right now.
Very
It's,
true.
really-
I need to square out my
That's what disappoints
my
me.
priorities here.
Where's your open letter of apology?
He also, it's funny too. He mentions. I love how he comes back around on the article and he says, "But millions are using this." Okay, millions have no choice. You updated your phone or bought a new one, and it gave it to you, and it said you can't use Google unless you link to it. But they didn't tell people that until his apology letter. So people like me, I'm like, do I go to the website because I'm not using this because it didn't work for me as well as Jay a couple episodes ago. It worked, but don't tout how many people use it.
Yeah.
Don't give me how many people own a phone.
Yeah.
That doesn't sell me. But personally, I feel the same way I did when it first came out. Stick to what you're good at. That's just my feeling, and I'm not saying they're not good at software. This was developed by another company who spent almost their whole career as a company working on map development. Why, and for the love of God, when you have a business model where you are now the highly ranked company in the world,
Most profitable.
would you screw people on a second rate? Just my opinion, on a second rate system when it's done by somebody else, dude. You don't need to cut into that market. There's no market really to cut into.
Well, I do think the other side of that coin, though, is the iPhone. Is why that was one that if they could have totally botched the phone. And they managed to go on top and really push them into what the business is.
But
now.
it's a designed product, which is what they are good at.
Yeah,
designed products. This is not a designed product. This is a proven
functional.
app.
That's a functional product.
I think even
That doesn't
software, though,
function.
Apple's built its entire career off of seeing what other people have done and doing it better. I mean, from the very beginning to the first user interface that Steve Jobs stole from Xerox, that was software.
Fair enough.
But they failed this one.
Google Maps has never.
having it.
Google
And
Maps,
Falcon.
in my and people I know, Google Maps has never once in any of my friends somebody come to me and go, "Fuck, Google Maps suck." I'm going back to what was the other one? People like,
MapQuest.
Not once ever. So this
I don't even
wasn't
know how many
software
times I got
that was
lost because of
touted
MapQuest.
ever.
Yeah.
That I saw. I'm
MapQuest.
sure there's websites, but I never personally saw from anybody or heard from friends that this ever was shitty software.
Yeah.
You know what else
Ever.
you haven't heard has ever caused a problem? Is Bing Maps.
because
And
no
that's
one
because
uses
no one
it.
Nobody uses it.
Well, my thing is they're using the map data they're getting from another company.
From Tom.
Yeah, that's where my
TomTom, yeah.
question is, like, from an engineering perspective, is it the integration of the TomTom software that failed, or is it just the TomTom software itself that failed?
Well, we're back to the whole. Now we're back in even to them cutting corners.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Google.
I just missed
Their
Street
own
View.
shit.
Yeah.
They needed nobody else. And Apple, when they've done great things, they've needed nobody else. It's their own entity. Now they're saying, "Ooh, we can make money because it won't cost us much to license map shit that's done. But we'll just build around it." You're not making it better. You want maps for yourself, so people get your phone and be like, I love Apple Maps. It's the best.
It's a really pretty interface, guys.
It is.
Listen, you might not know where you're going, but it's going to be so beautiful while you drive just looking at how cool that interface is.
I
Till you
will
get
say, I've got the iPhone 5, and I've used Maps to get me, 10 places so far.
lost. You've gotten to 6 of those completely fine.
I was actually going to say I've gotten to all 10. They're very, very common locations. Not quite as common as LAX. Really thought that they would have
Really
hit that
not
one on
as
the
common
head.
as the world's
I might try-
largest.
I
Not
might
as common
try-
as a block.
I
that
might
just
try
ran.
LAX tomorrow.
Just as a
see
test.
what happens.
Don't do it.
I do have to go to the airport, so we'll see what happens. But it's worked for 10 for 10. I'm just going to stop now.
Yeah, I haven't had
So-
any problems either, but I mean, seeing that map is
Yeah.
just like mind blowing.
Oh, dude, it was.
But
it was
I've done like every trail, other ones. I use the Every Trail app, like when I mountain bike and even snowmobile and stuff like that. And I've had like the GPS just like bug out, and back on my 4, on my 3G, like where it just kind of
Well, if you're doing it in the,
Just-
in the back in woods and
Yeah.
stuff like that, depending on how strong your signal
4 or 5
is.
in the 101 shouldn't have
Exactly. I'm just like,
Well, if you're doing it in back end woods to start with, Josh, you've already started a problem.
And I will say this is my own naive, never owning a GPS, like a actual like GPS unit, or even ever downloading any of the other map alternatives. Because when Google, I never had to. When the 405 was closed last weekend, and I was going somewhere, and I punched in an address, the Apple Maps told me that. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. So
It told me that it was closed and gave me alternatives around that. I was like, sweet.
Although having the
for them.
405 closed, I did come up with a couple ideas of how they could have made the Maps app better. So if the first one is like have it know where you're supposed to go to. Okay, so let's do that one.
Fine.
let's cover the basics.
But there is like a couple things that I thought Apple missed of like Apple Touch of like, oh, this is the Maps app for stupid people, which is what I thought they were going to make. It's like, here's a Maps app that knows what you want before you want it. And the one thing that all of these GPS apps don't do is they don't let you say on the fly, I'm not going to take that route. Like if a street's closed, there's nothing I can touch that just goes, listen, there's nothing I can do, this street's closed, stop telling me to reroute me to take a U-turn.
Right.
Because I was in Long Beach, and I was on a street that was closed, and the app just kept telling me, get on this street. And I was like, no. So I just told my wife, I was like, just take a right, and then it'll correct itself. And it just kept saying, like, no, take a U-turn and then go back to that street. And it took it, 20 minutes of us driving in the opposite direction to finally go, oh, hang a left here, and you can hop on the freeway.
Like the Google Maps web, if you do it through the web, you can do that, right? You can omit, like, I want to go here without going through this.
Exactly. And Apple does let you choose different routes, but once you're on the route, there's no way to call an audible. And I just was like, there was a part of me that was just like, that is exactly what Apple's founded on, is doing that, of just this, like, basic thing where it's like, oh, I bet people are, like, super schizophrenic about how they drive, and if they encounter traffic, they're going to want to go, I don't want this anymore, I want something else. And they don't make it it's not as easy to use, but it's so beautiful.
And like I said, I use Street View a lot. Because normally I can get to where I'm going, like, just by seeing it on a map. It's like, cool, and I don't need to GPS to follow me. But I hate sitting there and, like, seeing an address and then having to look on the building, 1704.
Well, we don't stalk ex-girlfirlfriends like you, so we don't need Street View.
We all have our faults.
Vices. We all have our vices.
We all have our vices. But, yeah, I will always, like, just go into Street View and just see the outside of the building and see that's what it is. So I don't need to sit there and, look for addresses. And now I was like, I was just hitting it, and then it was just giving me in top down, and I'm just like, well, what does it look like?
What about the 3D renderings? Those don't help?
Well, it's a good thing that Apple's not producing their own autonomous vehicle.
No. Which is a great segue.
I'm sure we would be screwed.
Segue?
Jay, you want to touch on that?
Sean, you should get an award for that transition.
Maybe Sean should touch on
I
that.
guess so.
That was a great segue.
You teed
huge
yourself
fan.
up. Go ahead, roll with it.
You got the details, buddy.
All right, well, I guess I'll talk.
Grumble.
Real reluctant.
Oh, no, I think it was probably a week and a half ago, there was an announcement that California has officially signed a bill that will allow robotic vehicles to drive on the highways, which for me is just like one of the biggest hurdles to actually seeing that stuff happen, because I've always, like, I'm ever the futurist. Like, anytime there's, like, a program on Discovery Channel about the future, I'm like, when is that going to happen? But it's like,
now.
well,
But it's never going to happen, because if it happens, then it'll be the present. So.
Right, yeah. That was good.
Then you'll get people being like,
That
"You
was
were driving your car."
That was so
on
intelligent,
radio?"
it was stupid. What's interesting to me is usually you think, I think you're just touching on this, usually you think there's this incredible technology or this incredible advancement we can make for humankind, but it's not going to get any traction because politics.
Right.
Because somebody somewhere is going to have an opinion that's going to stand in its way, and that person's in office, so we just screwed the human advancement over because of this one person's opinion or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where really you think, holy cow, like, we're not really anywhere super close to this being available, but doors are already opening up for it politically, which is that's pretty amazing.
The funny thing I think of is like whenever you think of, like, autonomous vehicles or self-driving vehicles, like, you obviously go to sci-fi or
Batman.
movies and any of those stuff, and they're always doing awesome stuff.
Yeah.
The vehicles that can do that, like the self-driving vehicles now, do boring shit. They just go in traffic and they drive. And
There's
they don't,
race. There is a race, and I don't know what it's called, but it's across the desert.
DARPA.
And it's like a whole bunch of autonomous vehicles that just get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And they run into a ditch. They got to figure out how to get out themselves.
Yeah.
And
that
the person-
actually is the DARPA stuff is very.
And the
very
person
cool.
who has won that is the guy who works for now Google and has designed their autonomous. He was at Stanford, right? I think didn't you meet him once?
So I mean.
No,
yeah,
it is.
Like
it's super
10
cool.
to 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be autonomous vehicles
Yeah.
on the
We
road.
got
does-
Nevada.
does-
You got Nevada. You got
10 to 20?
California.
10 to
Probably
20.
less. Probably less.
No, really? Do you? What's your guess?
I'd say more like 10.
10 years.
10
and
years.
we're going to have
10 years?
10
At
years.
least semi-autonomous.
And you can buy a car that could, drive you to work?
yeah.
10 years.
Does anybody remember the article?
We're not. I'm sorry, I was going to say we're not far off. Susie's car brakes automatically. It has
There's
forward and
cars
back.
that
It brakes.
parallel park themselves.
Well, I mean, it brakes for itself
terrible.
now.
Have you ever seen those things in action? They suck.
No, I just saw commercials.
I've been in one. I've done it.
And it's like
fucking
before, and it's like an
weird.
empty spot, and then
It is
after, and you're like,
not
and it's
all,
upside down.
Not all the time.
It's upside down.
Not all the time,
Just
but I've been in one
tumbles.
that's done it, and it is the weirdest sensation. I mean,
You mean giving up control?
yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
literally sitting in there, and it's not give up control, because the ones now, like the Lincolns, you're still on the brake, like you're still controlling the brake, and all it's doing is when you let off the brake, it's applying the right throttle, but like you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, you know, right when your mirror passes the other mirror, it's like, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure I really like that. I don't know if I really like that. I didn't check any mirrors. I don't really know, computer.
So if we get autonomous vehicles, are we going to have brake pedals in every seat now? Because you can be like, I'm going to sit in the back seat.
I'm gonna go take a nap in the seat.
Yeah.
Well, does
I
anybody
hand pedals as well.
though remember when we had this conversation about the aftermarket and what it would cost, and like we got into like an argument
I remember that.
with Jack because he was like sitting there.
I'm only paying this much.
Yeah, we're only paying
period.
this much,
I
and
want
like
it in my
how much
car.
for an aftermarket? How much for the actual car? And nobody understood the question whatsoever, and it was
Jack
just
was
like,
what did I
Jack was
argue?
like,
No,
$30,000.
Jack and I understood the question.
no, you
guys-
didn't. No,
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 you
we
didn't.
understood
You
it.
didn't.
It was like between you two of not being
I
able
do
to.
remember that.
No, the question was if you could go buy, let's just take a Toyota Corolla right now, and you could say it's $30,000 for a Toyota Corolla, and you could say, but for $35,000, for $5,000 more, you can have the autonomous Toyota Corolla.
Easiest purchase I'd make
I don't
in
think
my
that was
life.
the argument.
No,
though.
that
that
was
wasn't
the
the
thing was.
No,
I think
that
that's
wasn't
cheaper
the
than an
argument.
automatic transmission.
And how? Yeah.
Jack
and
said
how
no. Jack said he
productive
wouldn't
could
do it.
you be? You
Yeah,
could
but you
save
don't-
so much time.
Jack's
We're
not-
gonna need to go to the archives.
This was like
No, seriously, I can see. Honestly, I'm trying to get so negative that I come up with a reason why. Other than I think it had to do with the fact that we started with a Corolla. No, it was more. No, I thought
it was back when you
it
got
was
your
30.
BMW.
No, I thought it was like $30K more, and I'm like, okay, listen, I'm not putting $30K more into a Corolla.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Like he wasn't going like it was an aftermarket thing, or if it was like the whole price of the car. So that was a whole argument on its own.
Jay explained it much better this time around.
Yes, that was the whole
It's
argument.
been a year. We figured out how.
and
to
then and then at the end of the conversation, Jack was just like, "I wouldn't do it," and it was just that was it. That was it. He just wouldn't do it.
I did think of a scenario. I think of with autonomous vehicles that would be pretty funny. So this coincides with like being able to remotely control your vehicle as well. So you'd be like, "Hey car, take me to work." All right, cool. Takes you to work. You're all good. Parks and everything. Like, and then your wife's like, "Hey car, I gotta go to the grocery store. Can you come pick me up?" So you go out to lunch with your buddies, and you're like, "Fuck, where's my car?" 'Cause your wife's got your car taking her to go do shopping and shit.
And then you're like, hey, car, come get me for lunch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your wife's at work with you.
Well, I think even better is what
Drop
I would
that
do to
bitch
Jay's
off.
car is I'd say Jay would drive his car to work. He'd go, "Hey, car, take me to work," and it would take him to work. And then I'd get in his car when he wasn't looking, and I'd reprogram home to be in Orange County. And then when he said, "Hey, car, take me home," and took a little nap, because you know you take a little nap on the way home, you'd end up in Orange County, and you'd have to drive all the way home.
There'd be
There's
so
much
many
worse
more-
places you could
So
send
many
a
new
Jack.
backstories.
like Mexico. Like I sent him down to Mexico.
Hold on. Have you guys been to Orange County?
Not where you're going, clearly.
Go pick up my crack cocaine and drive it across the border.
So back to Sean, you were mentioning, do we need a brake pedal in every seat? I'm not an expert on the bill that's passed, but I believe the law says that there still has to be a human being behind the wheel. I believe that the human being
But that
doesn't
human
have
being
to be driving.
Could be a baby and a
Or conscious.
Can they talk on their cell phones though? Like, or are they really driving? Because the reason I like autonomous cars is I was thinking about this a day or two ago. I was like, what is the most amount of time that I'm wasting in my average day? And I wouldn't say sleeping, because sleeping I'm like recharging energy,
brushing
blah
your
blah blah.
teeth.
Brushing my
Masturbating.
teeth, I'm falling in love all over again. But the time I'm wasting most is on my way to and from work every day. I'm wasting my time. Like I could be doing so much more than listening to the same stupid Spotify station.
You should be listening to Nerdtastic and 3D podcast.
Well, I listen to that once a week already.
Just saying.
Yeah, I listen
Plug.
to it.
I'm pretty
to it
sure I waste
again.
most of my time at
Boom.
stop signs.
Stop.
But imagine if you could have your laptop open, you're like doing stuff. And I was talking to our boss, Tim, was saying that he lived in Japan and he would take the train to and from work. And he's like, you don't understand how much personal time I had. I made games. I had hobbies. I knew so much about music and movies because he had an hour
The
each way.
internet was all his.
Yeah,
I
like you have
sculpted
that
on
where
that.
all you can do is just be productive in a very personal way.
So periodically over the last 45 years or so, I've taken the train down from Santa Clarita. And it's not quite long enough to really do anything, but actually the biggest problem is it's actually a social awkwardness that I've encountered, which is I will get onto the train, I will have my laptop, and I will think, I really want to take this time to do something, right? Use it to be creative or do something, and someone will sit down to you, next to you that you know that you're familiar with, and then it's
Jay Leno.
I feel
apparently.
I don't have the capacity in me to tell somebody, I'm sorry, I'm shutting myself away. I don't want to talk to you. Like, I can't do that. I don't know how I could do that. So
You could do that so much better in a car.
exactly,
'cause you'd
right?
be alone.
Exactly
You could just be
right.
like,
So that's my problem with
Because everyone's like that already. Anyway.
You don't need to flip people off when you're in a car, though.
Why not?
But that's my whole thing about the train.
I do.
I'm pretty sure I would have my car doing menial tasks for me, like a butler. I'd be like, "Car, go get me some soda."
So that was
And it
my
would fucking do that shit for me.
my whole thing.
I'd
was-
walk
I'd call
in
the
at
grocery
7-Eleven.
store, and I'd be like, "Hey, grocery store, I got a car coming. Can you just pack them?"
Would you wait a second? When you say you'd call a grocery store, you mean you'd call the building, apparently, because
Yeah.
you'd tell it.
Hey,
it was a grocery
building,
store.
just put it in the back. Drive it home.
Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, Jason.
It's fine. We can move
so
on.
many. So many autonomous.
But no, I
vans.
agree that the problem with trains and planes I have the same idea when I'm on a plane that I'm going to be personal and work on something or do something, and then someone comes on the plane and we start talking, and I'm like, I don't want to be in this conversation.
Planes, I've got it down. Planes, you immediately get on and put headphones in.
Nope, doesn't stop people. Does not stop people.
Every time stops
Does
people.
noise canceling headphones do not stop people.
Who are you sitting next to?
Yeah,
You
it
guys
works
just
every
don't.
time for
You
me.
guys just
I'm literally
don't
sitting
look-
there watching like freaking Fallen Skies, and I'm like watching it, and I get this like bump on my shoulder, and I'm like, she's like, and I'm like, you watching Falling Skies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Like 25 minutes, she's talking about it. I'm like, I'm watching the show. Can I just watch the show? Like,
Yeah, even reading. Like I was
Yeah,
I was
you guys
reading.
don't look angry enough.
I was reading Walking Dead, and then like the guy next to me is just like, "Oh, isn't that a show?" Just like I looked up, I'm like, "Yeah,
cool.
It is a show.
is it any good?" Yeah,
It's also a comic book, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to read it.
exactly.
right now.
Then he just like he used that foot in the door to just start going like, "So yeah, I'm traveling from San Diego," and then just started to keep going off, and I'm just like,
Much like the characters of The
Correct.
Walking Dead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Didn't you and Jay get tattoos to scare these people off?
That's the sole reason.
Exactly.
You
I look
trick
int-
people
I-
that it's cool. It's not to
You
be
would
cool.
think I look intimidating, but no.
Not
That's-
until you get the
that's-
teardrops of who you've killed.
Exactly.
Will
You
people
gotta get a
be
neck tat
scared.
for that.
Yeah.
Adam also got a tattoo for the exact same reason.
But it
That
really
has
mostly
scared
just
nobody.
invites people to
I-
call my mom.
It's weird.
I never have this problem. There's just must
You're an
be
asshole.
something
You're
about
an
you.
asshole.
You guys,
You look
you
super
gotta
creepy.
be non-approachable.
You're a creeper.
You just
be
really gotta just be like,
You're the creeper that was reported to be in the area.
Yeah.
Is there something about your posture that makes you not approachable?
Yeah, it's this right here.
Yeah.
Well,
Middle
don't you
fingers in the
ride
air.
public transportation in the nude? Wasn't that a thing you said you were into?
That was like 3 times. You can't hold me to that.
But apparently the state of the state of California can, because they did hold you because of that.
Yeah.
Nudist carpooling.
They just didn't understand.
I'm pretty sure you get way too many people wanting to talk to you.
Yeah.
If you're sitting nude in there.
Well, hello.
Hey, Pecco, so Zigna,
Zigna.
are they
Zynga.
still open?
They are still open.
Well, they've never been.
Zynga.
They've never been open.
They've never really been
Zynga
open.
actually has been open.
I'm still sticking with my
Zynga.
Zynga. Or, honestly, I don't even remember what I just called it.
Yeah, Zynga is. It seems to be in a downward spiral right now, and they were basically one of those companies that were at the top of the world yesteryear, and this last couple months they've just been falling straight to the ground. So
They were on top of the world before they went public,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, and that's kind of maybe a scary thing for like a company like Facebook too, looking at it where they're kind of you're seeing the same sort of thing. But for me, I think the whole thing with Zynga is as a game developer, I don't want to have a chip on my shoulder or anything, but like Zynga games don't really do it for me, and I feel like a lot of their games are kind of
You can
Why,
say
'cause
it.
they buy
They're
other games? They don't make
they
their
skew
games?
lower. They skew towards a lower demographic.
Yeah,
like a
they-
younger demographic.
They don't want actually. They probably would say different. They don't want you.
right.
They want the housewife. They want the 50 to 70-year-old woman who's home all the time
Yeah.
to play their games.
Exactly, and they. But my problem, I think, too, is that it seems that they just continue to make the same game over and over and over and over again, and that is the reason because all the people who play their games have already played all their games and have already played all their future games as well, and so people just have
But they're not really made to end. They're
Well,
made to
that's-
just keep
yeah.
spending money, which is
They've made what, Farmville?
Yep.
Which
And that's
is,
it.
Well, they've made like 100 other games just like Farmville.
Just like
as well.
Farmville. So again, they just made Farmville. They have other games that other people have made. Like was it the Words with
Mafia
Friends
Wars.
guys.
Well, Mafia Wars was popular on Facebook for a
Right.
long time.
All
too.
their Facebook games, and then they're with friends games, but those.
But those are games that they bought, and like even those guys, left that left the company
yeah, they just
too.
left the company.
Yeah,
But
I stopped playing all those games.
as an
Those, like-
aside, the most interesting thing that I've seen or heard in the last week is that there is a Words with Friends board game, which used to go by Scrabble.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But
we
it's
have two of those
published
at home.
by Hasbro, who makes Scrabble. So I guess they were completely fine
Now,
with it.
the company does, however,
Money's
though,
money,
in their
money's
lunchroom had the coolest.
Oh,
This has
yeah.
been on our topics list forever, and I saw has the coolest video wall to play Halo or any other first-person shooter. I think it's like 16 screens,
Yeah, 4 big.
and then like 16 Xboxes hooked up, and it just the picture shows in the lobby all these dudes in this like giant like mosh pit, all with their controllers playing up on this huge monitor. I was like, okay, that's
They're
pretty sick.
crazy about everything like that. I have a couple friends who went there. There was a big, probably like 2-3 years ago, a lot of people were going up there. They were hiring like crazy, and they're very big on that Bay Area sort of like startup-y Silicon Valley vibe. They had a zombie day. Well, this even beats Zombie Day. They had a day where I had a couple friends posting pictures of they hired a bunch of clowns and circus performers to greet everybody as they walked in to Zynga, and then they served cotton candy and funnel cakes for the rest of the day. They did a zombie day where everybody was zombies. Like, they hired people as actors to walk around the building as zombies, and they played like a big zombie game where like, oh, you got bit by a zombie, now you're a zombie. And like, they do with things that must cost. I mean, the budgets for the games
You want to
that
hemorrhage
Jay and I
money?
work on.
Listen to Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, that's literally what these guys do. And there is a part of me that goes, I wonder if you get a board of directors and they go, I mean, I'm sure they're probably used to that, but there is a part of me that says, like, some guy opens, like, a manila envelope and is like, so what are you spending all this money on? Oh, you spent $1 million on, this is called street performers? What's that item line? And it's like,
What
well,
game is that?
Yeah. And it's crazy, and I mean, the people seem to really dig it. Like, the few friends I have there are always like, how crazy we can bring our dogs to work, and you can like bring your grandma, and there's shuffleboard, like just like no matter any stupid thing you can think of, they're like doing it, you know.
But I guess I'd love to hear from somebody who works there and can tell me a little bit about the creative environment. But it doesn't seem like either the ideas aren't there, or that even if the ideas are there, somebody's saying no, we're making these kind of games that
They were whether or not they're still they were profitable. There's no doubt they were profitable, and that was, I think, one of the big things why Facebook wanted to, I think, for a while, get so connected to them to be like, hey, this is making a lot of money. You're making us a lot of money. Why don't we keep doing this?
Right.
They must still be making money.
Yeah.
I don't know all the backstory exactly why that stock tanked, other than obviously it is so well connected to Facebook, and Facebook not doing well showed, but they still got to be making money. I mean, the studio is still there. I had a friend do a test for them, an art test for them. So, I would think they're still doing stuff. It's just a matter of what's going on. Like, are they losing money now?
Maybe
like,
they're just like not making as much money. They're
Could
making
be.
money,
Could
but
be.
they're not making.
And they're doing some stuff. I know they're acquiring people and acquiring studios, and they're kind of building some stuff. I think also there is this culture, and I think this is like everywhere, be it like tech news and entertainment news and stuff like that, where we love people to succeed, and then we're at the top, we're like, oh my god, I can't wait until they fall, and then we jump on that. And you're seeing it with Apple at number one, you're seeing it with Activision at number one. Like, EA used to be the punching bag, now EA is great, and Activision sucks.
Yeah.
And like, that's gonna change, right? And like, it's the same thing, Apple and Microsoft, like, what used to be the evil empire is now the underdog, and what used to be the underdog now the evil empire.
Yeah.
And I wonder if part of that is just, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that Zynga cannot be number one for so long, so we're going to pounce on a stock drop or something, and then it's going to become this vicious cycle of, because we pounced on it, it keeps dropping.
Yeah.
Because it keeps dropping, we keep pouncing on it.
It also, like, I had friends that had interviewed there. Like, Jack said too, like, he had friends. The vibe that my friends that would come out of, from their interview is, kind of like the whole you'd be lucky if you worked here. Like sort of mentality where it's just like we're kind of awesome and everything. So it's kind of like that makes it like kind of like an unappealing company. You just kind of get like too big for your britches. Like when we used to, me and Jack, when we worked at Sony, they were huge. They were, they'd just come off the Oscar for winning Spider-Man 2 and stuff, and they had like 12 movies going at once, and they were the place to be, but then at the same time, all of a sudden they're just getting underbid, undercut, underbid by every other place because they're going like, well, we did Spider-Man, so if you want to come here, you have to pay this. And now they're just like a call center of just, like a sweatshop that is just you're in, you're out because they're,
Yeah.
They suck. So it's like that mentality is, kind of in a way that I think, is mirroring, Zynga's mirroring that.
I've always thought Google was like that. Or I guess I don't know from personal experience. I just have always in my head anticipated if it ever got to a point of interviewing with them, I just picture a bunch of other nerds looking at me but judging me.
Yeah.
in a totally different light. Like you were just not nerdy enough. So it'd be totally weird, and I already get like anxiety over people who make me uncomfortable like that. So to have like 3 of them in my nightmares staring down at me for this job that they're like, dude, really, we're fucking Google.
Dude, this is a really specific situation of yours.
Yeah. It is. I've had that nightmare about Google. About Google.
That's because Google's just full of engineers, and most software engineers just think they're better than you.
They're all better than the guy next to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they think that. So to me, the guy coming in, what are you? If you're better than them, they're not going to hire you.
Yeah.
If you're too low, then they're not going to hire you. You literally need to be just something's got to be just right there.
Yeah.
Do you guys know anybody who's
I had a
talking,
friend who
who's
interviewed for them, and it was multiple days. And here's the kicker: he decided not to interview. He was going to go through with it. He had thought, like, he had already kind of accepted another job and had something else going. And like anybody else was like, well, I should follow through. And then when he heard what the interview was, he ended up bailing on it. They do an initial phone screen, which is like multiple people. Like when we phone screen people for our job, it's one person. And then you get passed on to a normal interview session where it's, you get interviewed by like 3 or 4 people over the course of like, there's an interview with 2 people here, 2 people there, 2 people there, then you go home. Google, by the time they fly you up, you've already been interviewed twice over the phone, one of which is a huge thing. You have to prepare. They give you a week to prepare a presentation, and you stand in a room with a PowerPoint and you pitch to them the presentation that they gave you. Like they give you a homework assignment and say, pitch that to us. That takes 2 hours, and then you spend the rest of the day interviewing with people who are critiquing your presentation.
Jesus.
And this was coming from a guy who already had a job. My friend was like, he was working at the place I was
What
working
was this
at.
for? Was it what kind of job?
This was design, like graphic design. So he wanted to be a designer, so they'd give you something that was design related. You'd present to them, and then your interview was half, your normal, like, oh, so do you like your, why do you want to work here? But mainly was like, yeah, so in your presentation. And he was like, I don't have the time. I have 2 kids, and I have a full-time job. And in order for me, they're going to fly me up there, and literally you're going to spend 2 days at our campus, and you're going to have to present to people instantly.
After the think tank internship, before I came over to mobile, I had an interview lined up with YouTube, and they sent me a engineering test, and it was like 12 questions, like pretty hardcore, like algorithm sort of questions. And then they were like, and be prepared on the interview. It's a phone interview. There's going to be some sort of app on that you can log on to that you will do whiteboard problems over the phone while we're interviewing.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm excited about this. And then Tim was like, hey, do you want to come work at mobile? I was like, yes, I do. I want to come work at mobile.
Yeah, do you know the interviews at our company are the interviews that I do with people are like I talk to them about whatever blog I read that morning. Like no joke. It's
so
just
come interview at Disney Mobile.
Yeah, interview if you want a game design job at Disney Mobile, just come on by. And if you're not a douchebag, I'm like, well, somebody else screened the resume. I'm sure they're great. Because by the time somebody gets, this is my big thing. By the time you get to the interview, especially at a big corporation like Disney, there are so many people have seen your resume, and I have like seen your portfolio, and I already like that. I've already done that part. So the interview for me is like, do I want to spend
Yeah.
the next 2 years sitting next to you?
Yeah,
like
just
that's
if
all
you're
I'm
a
wondering.
douche and if you can get along with people.
That is the
If
number
you're-
one thing,
That
dude,
is the
Yeah.
number one
in our
thing.
industry.
You have
so
to
if you're
be-
watching,
You can
an
learn
amicable
everything
person.
else.
Yeah.
So I interviewed up at Microsoft, and I had to prepare a presentation.
What?
I had
That's
to
crazy.
I had to deliver it in front of a room full of people. I had to answer questions about the presentation afterwards. And then I was up there for a full day, and I had individual interviews with lots of different key people, some of which were asking more specifics about the presentation, but the presentation was just more about, it wasn't about a specific assignment, it was a presentation. They want to see an actual verbal and visual presentation on who you are and where you've been. So it's basically a
This is your
presentation of your
Did you
resume.
do like
you
a
start with the baby-
diorama
the baby
or any
picture?
Kinda,
Yeah.
You just said,
And then
Jason is born.
The Venn diagram. Times I'm happy.
boom,
Times
boom,
I'm
I'm
wearing pants. That's my favorite Venn diagram, and they're not together.
did you do it to take my breath away? Boom, 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 boom.
and then one of the pieces in there was an interview with key software engineering people, and I actually went to lunch with them, had lunch with them. They came back to a room, and a room very similar like this, a conference room with a whiteboard, and they handed me a pen, and they stood up. They're like, okay, go ahead and stand up. We have a question for you. And it was, okay, there are 16 horses. They all have to race each other. Or you need to find out the 4 fastest horses. You can only do a race of 4 horses at a time, basically heap sorting.
Yep.
And I had to answer and go solve through the problem algorithmically on the whiteboard in front of a room full of people.
Yeah.
Wait,
With
hold
everyone
on. I can
watching.
solve this one.
No, that's
You shoot like what 10 of them, and then you just
Yeah, do you ask that right away? Go, do I have a gun?
yeah, or a bat or anything to break legs.
Where's the
'cause-
trick?
engineering test. That's really the entire thing, is just to watch you problem solve.
It's
because
process.
It's how do you get from point A to point B, and if you don't know the answer, how do you find it? That's it.
I did a game design test once. I interviewed for a job, and I walked into the interview, and the guy I was interviewing with took out a little plastic bin of just like junk, like stuff he had found from people's desks, like really quickly, and threw it down and gave me like a pen and some paper and said, cool, so I'm going to cut out for half an hour, and when I come back, like make a game with this stuff, and then we'll play the game. And so he came back in, and I was like, shit, and I had heard of the potential of this happening at some point. Like, when I was, like, in college, somebody said, hey, sometimes somebody will give you a game design test. And I was like, that's never going to happen to me in my life. And it didn't until this very moment. And so I, like, threw together something really quick, and we played the game, like, me, him, and some other, like, person. And halfway through the game, he's like, oh, so what about this? And I just went, that's completely broken. 'Cause and he's like, oh. And I was like, because I spent a half an hour doing this, so that's broken. He goes, no, it's cool, man. Like, what would you? And I was like, this is how I'd fix it. And I just, like, really quickly, like, audibled the game together. And it was actually kind of fun. Like, as hectic as it was in the beginning, there was a part of me that when it finished, I was like, you know what? Like, it not only made me, like, it made me want the job even more, because I was like, hey, they actually did like
Maybe
some
we'll
due
make this.
diligence. Yeah.
Did it ever involve like throwing it at the other person? Like, did that was that ever part
No,
of the game?
that was not it. But I was
So
tempted.
you stand over there, and all I'm going to do is huck these things at you, and you have to dodge them.
Well, one of the things he had on the desk that he had pulled off was an electronic 20 questions game, and I was like somewhat tempted to be the guy who just, he comes back in and it's just sitting in the center of the room, and he goes, so what game did you make? And I went, it's called 20 questions. There it is.
A feat of engineering I did in 30 minutes.
Mind blown.
You
Did you tell me like, you don't have to leave the room? I got you.
Hey, come back, I'm done.
Nailed it.
My take on those incredibly intense perform on the spot kind of interviews is exactly what you were talking about. Like, I think putting yourself in someone else's shoes, it's all about seeing how that person functions. So like you can get really tripped up really fast by the fact that you're having to perform or like, use your brain in front of other people, because most people want to shut themselves away and figure it out. But putting yourself in the other person's shoes, they're not judging you. They're literally trying to see your brain in action. And so you're doing yourself a hindrance by getting all choked up and like, because my first response when they handed me that, because I had no idea, handed me the pen for the whiteboard, I was like, this is a joke, right? Like, this isn't for an engineering position, so why do I need to do this? And then after a second, I was just kind of like, well, clearly the guy just wants to see what I'm capable of problem solving. And so it makes everything, for whatever reason, it just kind of made everything a little bit less.
Did you draw
nerve-wracking.
horses just so you could visualize them better?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would have been my first step, is just to get up
So
there and start
here's a
drawing
horse. If you can picture
And then
this,
I gave them all names.
Did you?
Yeah, horse number 1 was Chuckle Chunks.
Well, we
Did
have,
you write that up on the board?
Yes.
You spent like 4 minutes just writing
You're
these really
hired.
long names.
It's like you have a great backstory.
I basically
but
did.
You have a great backstory.
completely don't understand this problem.
We still haven't even gotten to the races
I was
yet.
like, when's your next meeting? Half hour? I got this.
I can BS. I can BS this long.
Stretch.
well, even not as a technical programming thing that you guys have had to do, like on the art side of it too. Like for animation stuff, there's a lot of studios that require you to do an animation test regardless of your background. You can sit there and have been, the lead animator of Woody, and from Pixar, and it's just like, you want to go work at the studio. It's like, here's a test. It's just like, I've done what I've, this
Have
was
you
me.
seen Toy Story?
Yeah, have you seen this is what I did. It's just like, great. Here's a test. You have 300 frames to do this sort of process and everything like that. And it's basically, you have this whole thing, and like, you guys are saying like they want to see you problem solve. Basically, they give you a deadline in terms of 3 days, or spend like 8 hours a day, because they want to see what you can do. But what will kill people is they will sit there and spend 3 days straight not sleeping, and just polishing this to look just phenomenal. It's just like, that's great. How long did this take you? And then because all of a sudden it's like, great, you're hired. We need this walk cycle done. And you have till 5 o'clock. You're just like, but I spent 3 days just doing this. How am I going to do this like now?
Yeah.
And so you really fuck yourself over.
No, that's Woody's title we were talking about at lunch, because I had 2 friends for a local game studio in town who puts out huge titles.
Naughty Dog.
They're both Naughty, yeah, basically Naughty Dog. They
Do you have a cold?
they're the studio. They're one of the first studios. My friend said that they make they're one of the ones that make everybody do the anim test. They don't care what you have done or who you are. Or
Sony Santa Monica
Walt
does
could have
that.
walked
Janitorial?
in. Yeah,
Anim test.
Walt could get out of the grave and be like, "But I'm an animator." They're like, "Sorry, Walt, you got to do the animation."
Do you know how to use Maya?
But they've had guys who've done really good tests who they interviewed and didn't know for sure it was so good that they brought them in for a 2-hour session and actually sat them at a desk and had them do a cycle right there. He's like, there's a lot of times, like Josh said, that we just need, for the position, we don't tell them any different. They're like, you're coming on to animate, but maybe the position they really need is somebody to bang out cycles. This guy had this looked awesome. You did what we told you to do. Can you do this though?
Fast.
How many can you get done? And they've had 2 guys or something like that he said that they brought into the studio and sat him down and said, okay, we need a walk cycle now. Just do your process. And he's like, look, sometimes we'll stand behind. Sometimes we'll let them do their thing, just to see if they're getting sketched that we're behind them, and we want to see their process. The other one that made me think of is Zynga, is that the girl I know who did the test, hers was time-based, and it was actually on the file. She had a certain amount of time, and it was time-stamped that she had to send it back to the thing. Her test was awesome, by the way. Like, she sent it to me after the fact. I'm like, for what they do, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because she just copy-pasted from another.
Pretty much. It was just like, but it was like it was very specific. It was very game-based. It was like, here's your poly limit, here's your texture limit. Stuff I hadn't heard since I was in school. It was like, you get 1 256 map, and you get like 10 polys.
Yeah.
But make it look like, these characters were done in ZBrush.
Yeah.
But that blew me away was the timestamp thing.
Yeah.
But they specifically wanted to see how long it took her to do that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, these industries are just blowing up, and everybody wants to get into them. So every company wants the best of the best. So makes sense.
So why
Except
not?
Disney Mobile, and that's why we hired Jay Petco.
Hey, Jason Carter. So Microsoft.
Yeah.
Doing a little promotion for guys like you with those high gamer scores, and not guys like me with my barely breaking 5,000.
My gamer score is pretty low in comparison to
That
the
guy,
general
that freaking-
populace.
Jeez Louise.
500,000?
Isn't he up to 6 or 7 now?
Probably.
He's pushing he's going
Yeah,
for the
so-
million.
So what does he get?
Yeah. So Microsoft recently announced. Got to get out my notes. No, Microsoft recently announced that they're actually going to start awarding players for having decent gamer scores, and so it's nothing like super crazy or significant.
It's
but
not. Isn't it not significant at all? Like not even remotely significant.
I thought-
Giving you anything is better than what they give you now.
I think I did-
To
I
me,
did-
this seems like testing ground. So here's what it is. So if you have gold members, so you have to be an Xbox Live, so you pay the $50 a year, with a gamer score of 25,000 points or higher, will get 2% back on any purchases, in Microsoft points, basically. So any game that you buy will cost 2% less. If you have 10,000 gamer score, you'll get 1%. And then this is my favorite: gold members with 3,000 plus gamer score will get a quote unquote special gift on the month of their birthday.
Sweet.
Hold on. The fine print here saying we do note that the fine print says the gift has an approximate retail value of 25 cents.
Happy birthday.
So it's got to be some sort of avatar thing for your, like a hat that
That's
says
what- I
"Happy
think that's
Birthday,"
what it is.
or it's like the cone hat or something
So
like
it's,
that.
I mean, you kind of applaud them for doing something, but
Totally is what it is.
this is the kind of thing that happened just recently where unrelated field, but it's this reward that sounds fucking awesome, and then you kind of cash in on. You're like, really? So the Shell station and Ralph's does this if you spend money, you get 10 cents off a gallon at the pump, and I'm like, that's awesome. I go and fill up a Jeep Wrangler, 18 gallon. No, I put 17 gallons in
What
it.
is that, $200 now?
It cost me $84. I saved $1.83, $1.83, and I'm like, really?
But if you for the Xbox Gamer Score thing, if you I don't remember what the point values you said that you need to get, but for the people who get those point values, they're spending probably a fair amount of money in Xbox Live points, right? So
You could have made it
probably-
more, and people wouldn't have gamed that system, I think.
Yeah,
I think
2%
it's nothing.
is a
It's
fraction of
nothing.
tax.
No, to me, this totally seems like the Xbox marketing team is putting the feelers out in the water to see if this is something that could get people to be in the Xbox
buy more
environment.
games.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, from a marketing standpoint, I completely agree with both of you. It's not 2% is not a lot. That's a 50 cents on your next game.
But you're right where you're going.
But I mean, as a marketing idea, how cool is that? That all of a sudden you get literally awarded with a monetary value, no matter how low, for simply playing games. I think that's cool.
I think, if you look at how Xbox works, I mean, if you look at what Xbox Live Arcade was on the Xbox One, it was so underwhelming and unsubstantial. It was a disc you had to put in, and then you would buy games online, but you could only play those games if the disc was in your system, which meant that the whole allure of it was, hey, I can buy things online and I don't have to use discs, except for the one disc that allows me to play the games.
Well, that
I bought
doesn't
online.
count because it's not part of the thing.
Yeah, and so, but I think that when you saw what they were doing, I had the same reaction where instantly I was like, this is going to be the coolest thing on earth. And then it came out, I was like, this sucks. And then 360 came out, and they had a real Xbox Live Arcade, and then it was changed my life. And I was like, this is everything I love about video games.
Jay, did it change yours?
Yeah, it did.
What was it like when you played your first Xbox Live
That
Arcade?
was, it was really.
You understand? You understand that as long as you're on the show and don't own an Xbox, this will continue.
And I'm totally cool with
Do that challenge again.
Do
that challenge again.
I'll
Jay-
play in PlayStation trophies.
What
don't
was it
know.
like for you?
That's like Shroot Bucks. It doesn't really convert.
Stanley Nichols.
It doesn't convert.
What's the equivalent?
What's the equivalent?
What was it like when you played your first PSN game? Or were you even able to play a PSN game
It
because...
took 2 hours to update my
Oh,
system
'cause
and
you
then
had to update
download
the
the
system.
game, and then I had to restart my system, but then I got to play it. So
and
it
then
was
did
great.
you have to ever update your credit card? Because that's impossible to do on the PlayStation
I've never
Network.
had to do
So,
it.
okay, yeah. Well, don't do
Oh,
that.
you don't put your credit card on that system. You don't do that.
But there was a game on iOS called The Vault, and it was 99 cents, and the reward for beating all of the puzzles in the game was a free game on Steam or something. Which
That's pretty big.
yeah, and it was. I don't know what game it was because I never did it. But for the first
Keep selling it, Pekka.
for the first,
Down low, it had a monetary value of 25 cents.
for the first 3 days I played it, though, I was like, oh, this would be great if I got this reward so I could actually play this game on Steam, which I'll never download. Point being, there was a real life reward there, and
I mean, I didn't get it
interested
or
me.
cash it in, but someone did.
It interested me for 3 days.
But there is something really cool about, I think, the thing they're giving you, even though it's worth a quarter, I like that better than the discount. Because for me, I wish that they would give you for they'd give you a $5 Xbox Live Arcade game. Like some game they're just trying to get rid of, one of those Sonic games or something that they're just selling dirt cheap. Because they do, I think Xbox has gone a long way in offering substantial sales on their games. I've bought probably in the last 3 months, I've bought maybe 5 to 10 Xbox Live games I have not played, but I bought them because they were like 200 points, which is like, $250. And I was like, well, for $250, I might as well buy this stupid old arcade game I'm never going to play.
Yep.
And if they gave stuff like that away
And
for
you've
free,
proven it.
and I've proven it, but I feel like that would mean
They want more
that would
of
have
you,
more
Sean.
value. But I do feel like giving me something is more valuable than giving me
A discount.
a discount
Oh, sure.
because the discount's never going to seem right. Like the
never gonna
discount's
add up.
never going to add up for me, even though technically speaking, it is more valuable because
Not 2%.
Yeah,
Not
2% just sounds.
If it was
so
a
low.
compounded kind of thing, maybe like a credit card style thing where it's just compounded with your points or something,
Yeah.
it starts to make sense. But I think Jason's probably right. I mean, it's testing the waters. But I'm kind of with you. If they would give you a free game, or honestly, the stupid hat sounded more cool to me than
Yeah.
than 2. Nobody does 2%.
and their
It should be
points
like
are
the shirt that
crazy.
says "I'm with stupid."
Well, no, but their points are like hundreds. Like $5 is 400 points. So why wouldn't you give me 100 points? That sounds so much bigger than 2%. Like that's what blows my mind. with it.
I think the biggest complaint from the community with the idea is that it stops after 25,000 points at 2%, which means if you're one of those people out there that has a gamer score of 500,000 or something crazy and you've dedicated your life to this, it's still 2%.
Yeah.
I wonder
Well,
what the percentage of people, like what the skew is for points, like gamer score, like where
Where's the
the
bell curve?
median is. Yeah, like how.
Well, I can tell you, anyone over 200,000 is still a virgin. There is that. That is a fact.
You're gonna put as high as 200,000.
You should get no more points. That should be a life. That's
Because
just a life lesson.
I've been playing the 360 now for whatever since it came out, and I'm at 11. I don't know what we're at. Like, I mean, and that was after
Well, we got the free 1,000 basically. You're
that was
welcome.
after earning almost. That was after earning 2,200 over 1 month with this crew.
So I want to. There's two things I wanted to bring up as we kind of bring the show to a close. First is we on this show like to promote projects that we find interesting, projects from friends, colleagues, things that maybe wouldn't get a ton of notice right away, but we kind of like to put them out there. We've had some interesting guests on the show doing some short films and things of that nature. So there's a guy, a good friend of mine, Peter Vaughn, who is working, actually works for, on the side at Evil Plot Games. He's a developer, a little sign company he's made, and he's made a game called Nightmare Cove that was on Facebook for a little while, but it's been taken down now so he could solely focus on the Kindle version, which is out now. And I wanted to read a little bit about the game to you guys. So this is the...
I love the sound of the paper. Like we're all
me rustle
professional
some
here.
paper.
Exactly.
That
Let
sounds
me
like
get my
some-
notes.
That sounds like some good quality paper.
Yeah.
Good night and good luck. So here's a little bit about the description of the game, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my thoughts about it. Zombies are lurching through the graveyard, and phantoms haunt the house on the hill. So grab your tarot cards and load your pistol with silver bullets. It's time to live a horror story. Nightmare Cove is an interactive horror story game. Players move through text-based adventures by choosing what their character does in each situation. You will solve puzzles, find items and treasures, and fight monsters such as ghosts, vampires, and werewolves, wielding weapons ranging from knives to crystal balls. Nightmare Cove uses a unique story-driven system that delivers information in narrative form instead of the number crunching found in most role-playing games. Experienced and casual gamers alike can enjoy Nightmare Cove. The version that you can buy right now on Kindle has 2 characters and 6 stories. The initial Nightmare Cove game comes with the 2 characters and 6 adventures plus a tutorial. Forgot that part. You can choose to play Jennifer Kim, a youth pastor whose aunt has gone missing, leaving behind a mysterious and powerful pendant. Or as William Ross, a psychologist and cult expert whose wife was ritualistically murdered and now haunts him.
Ouch.
Each character has unique strengths, weaknesses, skills, and abilities.
How long were they married?
Doesn't say
Play
that
it
on the
to
press
find out.
release. Nice. So, real quick, brief sentence about each story. The adventures: old, new, undead, and blue. You're excited to attend your friend's wedding. It promises to be a lovely and romantic affair. Hey, wait, who invited the zombies?
Classic.
Deja vu, a trip to an English manor house ends in murder, and the spirit of the deceased has trapped you in a time loop.
If I had a nickel for
Until
every
you-
time that has happened to
Until
me,
you can solve it.
I'd have
Nickels.
Shitload of nickels.
Nickels.
Blood on the snow. A ski trip turns bad when you discover a body with a throat slit. It appears one of your companions is a psychotic killer.
Is he just reading
Or
my
is
life?
Or is there something even darker at work? Bloodhorn Lodge. The grand reopening of the Bloodhorn Lodge is only a
I
few
would
days
not
away.
Stay there.
But the staff has been reporting strange happenings. Perhaps the remodel hasn't completely wiped away the hotel's dark past.
Well, obviously, it still has the same name.
Yeah.
Survivors lost in the Canadian wilderness.
Canadians are nice. They'll help you home.
They got a lot
They're
of
going to help you home.
You shouldn't be lost.
Not true. With
Only one road in Canada.
Yeah.
Is he using Apple Maps? Is he using...
Lost in the Canadian wilderness with untrusting strangers is a bad place to be.
Well, they're not Canadians. They're definitely not Canadians.
Yeah, imports.
Then, as the clouds expose the moon, something howls in the woods. Ghost ship. You discovered the Black Queen floating abandoned on the ocean. What could have happened to its crew, and is it truly abandoned?
These are all separate, completely separate narratives, right?
So, yep, exactly. So each one is it's 6 different stories, 2 characters. And you basically the idea is you guys remember those books? I loved them when I was a kid. The Choose Your Own Adventure books.
I was just thinking about them.
That's exactly what this is, except in a little bit more of an interactive form.
Cool.
So it's on the tablet, and again, it's on the Kindle store. Go to www.nightmarecove.com to check out more about it. I have played a little bit about it, and I will tell you this much. I'm not going to give away any spoilers or anything, but. Peter, it's my friend Peter and one of his friends who have done it, and I will say that they have given an incredible amount of detail to the storytelling. So there's a lot of rich storytelling. So if any of those stories sounded fun to you, go check it out. And then there's actually an expansion packs that are coming out where there's 2 more characters, and there's a total of 6 more stories that you can get on top of that are coming soon. And if this thing does well, if it looks like he's going to take it, I think, to iOS and some other devices that may be a little bit bigger reach than Kindle is right now. But if you got a Kindle, check it out.
You heard it on Nerdtastic.
And the one thing to say too is with the sprawl of ebooks and stuff coming out. Like if you're interested in the Choose Your Own Adventure stuff of the old days, then this is the newest incarnation of that. So it'd be pretty cool.
Maybe a cool way to bring it out is to do the Kindle like try to attract a book audience versus trying to break into a very, very thick and heavy game audience.
And then the second thing I just wanted to mention before we close is that Adam recently became an uncle again.
Wait, how does
that
this all
is
work?
the greatest
How does this
way
work?
to say
I
that
don't even
you
know
had
how
a
to
kid, Jason.
Congratulations, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, Adam. Good
I worked
job.
hard. I made it through another year. We're all real proud
I
of me.
can't wait till after Jason's birthday where he goes, just want to point out that Adam's brother-in-law just had a birthday.
Were you thinking about how to present that this whole time?
Yay.
No, right at the end.
no.
I have one more thing. Sean,
Yo,
Boba Fett ice cream.
Boba Fett ice cream, man.
Did we just step over the fact that Jason had a baby for Boba Fett ice cream?
No. We talked about it on an episode that we showed up. Didn't we?
No, the baby had
No
not
baby
come
not
yet.
been born yet. Oh,
I'm pretty
I
wow.
guess we didn't. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hey.
It was close. It was real
not?
close. It was real close.
It was a couple of days.
I wasn't there. I don't know.
Did we not?
I'm pretty
No,
sure
that
Boba
was-
Fett
He was
ice
only born
cream
a
is
The
week
Wednesday
ago.
way
before.
more important than a baby.
Sorry. So I had a son that was born on September 29th, and he's healthy and happy. His name is Brady. And I'm
He's very cute.
very, very
He's already a
happy father.
Nerdtastic subscriber. They signed him up for an account on
Put the
Facebook
headphones on him to fall
Yeah.
asleep.
and those other things.
He's
that-
already written a lot of really positive comments and rated us 4 stars.
really good. Really good stuff.
Brady.
He makes
thanks,
little
Brady.
angry
R.I.P. Carter.
Jason faces. That's
Yeah,
the best
that
thing he
is the
does
best
right
thing.
now.
He's got the furrowed brow for sure.
Yeah, he's pretty pissed.
He's pretty busy.
So anyways, Adam, congratulations.
Thank you.
Adam.
Thank you. I'll be here hopefully next week. No,
Yeah.
I won't. I won't be here next week. Sorry, guys.
The worst.
Seriously.
Sorry.
Atrocious.
But do you think, so Jason, do you think that when your baby gets a little bit older, and has teeth and stuff like that, do you think that he'll be a big fan of Boba Fett ice cream?
Because you need
That's completely my bad.
You need teeth
Is it
to
full
eat
of
ice
hair?
cream.
I don't know. There's
wait,
chewy
that's
things.
too
in
bad.
it.
I bet it's a little chewy.
I cannot handle that joke.
It's way better than anything that you have said.
You're mad because he did it.
It's too stupid. That joke is too dumb. That joke is too dumb.
It's very dumb.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Nerdtastic in 3D episode number 42. My name is Jason Carter.
Jason Pecco.
I'm still Josh LeBron.
Jack Eckler. Adam McFarlane.
42, Sean Carney.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Nerdtastic, Nerdtastic, Nerdtastic. It is